Welcome to Marketing D-Koded, the podcast where we unravel the mysteries of marketing for busy business owners. Here are your hosts, Daniel Kodem and Jackie Strack.
Hi, this is Daniel with Jackie, and we're back for another episode of Marketing D-Koded.
Hello, happy to be back.
So today we're going to talk about starting a business and aspects related to marketing. We can talk about starting a business as a whole and go into all the nuances of business plan and everything. That could take us hours, and I don't think anyone wants to sit here and talk about it for hours, but we wanted to at least focus on the marketing side of the world. I can't speak for Jackie, but I can say personally over the last 2 to 3 weeks, I've had numerous conversations with people who are like, I'm just starting a business, or my business is changing, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel like a lot of people come in there without really understanding all the facets of stuff. And I often get the comment, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, thank you. Or, yes, that's something I wish I had known. So I want to kind of give you a high-level overview of things to keep in mind when you're starting your business. Jackie, do you have anything you want to add before we dive in?
Yeah, just that I've spoken to some leads lately who are just on the cusp of starting, and even taking the first step of creating a website can really make that business plan feel solidified. And right now we're just gonna go into the basic steps that you need to take to get that plan going.
Yeah, so we're going to kind of break this down to 4 elements. First one we're going to talk about is have a rough business idea. And when I say rough, you don't need to have every I dotted, T crossed, but it also doesn't mean you come in there and say, I just want to start a business. I had a conversation about 6-7 months ago, and the guy was basically asking me, well, what do you recommend to start? How should I proceed? What should I sell? And he had no idea of what he wanted to do. He just wanted to start a business. And there are people out there who will help people find careers, find industries for them to work or start businesses in. But coming to a marketing agency and asking them to figure out what business you should do is insanity. I will say that my personal opinion is if you're going to start a business, make sure you have a passion for it. Mm-hmm. The ones who are successful love what they do. They are, because there's good times and bad times, and they're willing to go through it because at the end of the day, they really enjoy getting down and dirty in the field they're in. I mean, I can't speak for Jackie, but I'll say in the almost 15 years I've been doing this, I love finding out about the different types of businesses that exist or can exist, that even to this day, I feel like every week I'm learning something new about a particular industry or a particular type of work, and that keeps me loving my job. So,
Yes,
Jackie?
I agree, and I think that everyone has something unique that they're passionate about, and that's what makes the country and the world such a special and colorful place. And so I think that definitely the initial step is to really hone in on what you think you can spend a long time working on and thinking about. And I think part of having a rough idea of what you want to do is having in your mind a rough idea of what you want your end goal to be. So some kind of, whatever it looks like in your mind, some kind of image of what you want your business to ultimately look like.
And feel free to dream big. It doesn't have to be a tomorrow goal. It can be a 10, 15, 20-year goal. But dream big, and you break it down to smaller elements to build to that.
Mm-hmm. And keeping that image strong in your mind will help inform every step that you take to get there.
I actually had a friend of mine send me some quotes today, and I'm going to say one of them, which I think is helpful for any business owner. It was something along the line of focus is my superpower. business owners should always be focused on their long-term goal and vision so they can continue to strive towards that.
Mm-hmm.
Keyword strive, not necessarily achieve it right away. Strive towards it. So,
Yes.
with that said, the second element, and it's the one that people hate discussing, hate talking about, is have a budget. It's going into a business saying, I want to start a business, and then not knowing what budget you have is not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. And a lot of people will come and say, well, I don't even know what budget to plan for. And that's a very valid point. You can do research on how much things cost, but it's also important to understand how much you're willing to invest in your business. Just because something costs X amount doesn't mean that's the one that you need. What I mean by that is, I'll use an example. If you are going into a luxurious, elegant type of business and you need a logo, you can sit there and go to some of these $5 or $10 logo places, but more than likely those would not suffice for what you're trying to do. They're usually very static, very boring, they're not very innovative, etc. So just having a budget based on research isn't enough. It's also understanding your total budget and be understanding if you see that budget may not be realistic for what you want to do, which we'll talk about. The fourth element is going to be probably in my opinion, the number one element in this when you're starting business, or it will frustrate you. Jackie, any thoughts on budget?
Yeah, I think I'd say it is true that in some sense you get what you pay for, and you don't want to be, just paying the bare minimum because you want to give your business the best chance it can to thrive. But you also want to be realistic about what's achievable for you in your budget and what you can consistently invest. Because as long as you're able to consistently invest a certain amount, then you'll be able to find options that work for you in that budget.
Absolutely. I had a client who I met with about 4 months ago, and they had a budget that they had in mind. The problem was they had taken that budget and spread so thin that it had ended up being ineffective because there wasn't enough in any one portal they had invested in to make it effective. Which brings me to the third element, planning. Plan, plan, plan. And yes, we could, like I said, talk about business plan, but for this purpose is marketing. The two basic elements are logo and website. Now, some may need a business card if you're going to be meeting people in person. Some may be needing digital tools, like for instance, if I'm in a Zoom meeting, you would see me with a little QR code in my background, so that way people can get my contact info who may not know me. You may need to plan to have money in ads, or if you're low on stuff, you may have to look at alternatives. But the planning is really important of to the basics and then what you need to actually get leads. Because in a business, if you have tangible goods, you in a store, you have to make sure people find your store, know where you are. You could have if you have the best ice cream in the world and no one knows where your ice cream shop is, you're never going to get business. If you have a great service that you provide, but no one knows about you, they're never going to find you. Oftentimes when we work with new restaurants, one of the things we talk about is getting localized visibility. And sometimes that involves investing either hard dollars or soft dollars. Hard dollars means, all right, I'm going to put X amount of dollars in ads or X amount of dollars to improve my marketing material. Soft dollars could mean you're bartering. So it could be like you're offering free food or a free event in exchange for notoriety. Jackie and I were actually right before this podcast discussing one of the networking connections I created a long time ago was a result of just me recognizing the relationship possibilities and providing my services at an ultra low discount because I want to make sure that I fostered that relationship and it's returned me tenfold.
Mm-hmm.
So those are things you have to be as a business owner aware about and willing to do to grow your business in the marketing space. I've been talking a lot. I'll let Jackie chime in, and then we can go into kind of the planning a little more deeper.
Well, one thing that just comes to mind when I think about the initial stages of creating a plan is that it's important to start where you're able to start and then build on that. So I think it's important for someone starting a business to be really thoughtful about what they can do to start, and then as that becomes more successful and as they realize, where their plan is succeeding, to build on that. And that's always better than, kind of throwing everything in one direction and then having to pull back later.
We've been putting this discussion in the sphere of if you're starting a business, but this discussion can also have a lot of ramifications if your business is struggling or it's made a major shift recently, like it's moved to a new locale. Some of the stuff may not apply, like you have to have a logo or something because you probably already do. But going back to these basic elements can help you figure out how best to proceed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to planning, Jackie and I wrote a few things down. We've talked about it at a high level, but let's dive deep. A logo is essential. It doesn't need to be intricate. It can be simply text if that matches the image you want to give, but you should have a consistent logo. Keyword in there is consistent. Why? Because people recognize who you are. If you have a logo that is script one place and then the next place it's a text in one font and then the third place it's a circular emblem, people without looking will think it's three different companies. You don't want to make it harder for people to recognize you. The reason McDonald's, for instance, the Golden Arches is famous is because everyone knows what those Golden Arches are. Everyone knows what the Apple symbol is. They use it on everything and they're consistent. It takes a while sometimes. I will tell you the version of my logo I have now is not the first version I had, but it has been consistent in the last 6, 7 years from the last time I changed it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's something that really signifies who I am, who my company is, which we'll talk about the fourth element more, but I just want to say it here. And I think it's most important. Be willing to be nimble. Be willing to adapt. I recognize that the logo, while the first one was okay, good, I didn't feel it had the same power and imagery I wanted to give, which is why I had it redone. Similarly, you will find when you're starting a business, you're making your best estimation of what you think works. Once you have a logo, make sure you have a website. Website's your online business card. It is what 85 to 90% of people will look at. If you start marketing and you don't have a website, at least have a website page that says under construction, we're coming soon, or something like that. It's not as simple as, well, I don't need a. Anyone who thinks in 2024 you don't need a website, there are very few things I will say people don't. I had a hairstylist 10 years ago, and even today, I'd give her the same advice. Come to me. They worked for a salon, asked me if they should have a website, and I said no. Why? Because the salon had a website. The salon promoted them enough. They could, if they want to promote themselves as a stylist in that salon, because they weren't the owner of the salon, I said, well, what you could do is to increase your social media presence. Because for them, it made a lot more sense. The websites, like I said, are for about 85, 90%. That was the online business card or physical business card. If you're going to be in an area where you need to meet people in person, you should have one. Now, nowadays, some people have a QR code on their phone and it's like a digital business card. I have both. I will say in the last 10 years, I've probably used about 300 business cards. So it's not that many. So you don't necessarily, unless you know you're going to be heavily meeting people in person, and even then, a lot of people, myself included, I don't want to get your business cards. I'll get your contact info. Let's exchange business cards that way through a digital contact. But I don't need to have more paper around. Now, that's me. Doesn't mean everyone's like me. Jack, you want to comment on any of those three?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the branding that you're going to be using on with a logo, that would be applied to a website or a business card or a Zoom background. One thing that's really important is that you have versions of your logo that can be used for different purposes. So sometimes you need a very small version of your logo to be a condensed version that can appear on your social media profile. Sometimes you'll want a more horizontal version to be on your website. And it's really important that your branding stays consistent among these different versions of your logo, because this is the way that potential clients are encountering you. And it might be the difference between them, deciding to go with you and buy something from your business or not. So I think for that one element, it is very important to make sure that you have a high quality logo with a good graphic designer who can give you multiple versions that you can use.
That's a great point. The one thing I'll add to what you just said is if you at some point change your logo or etc., make sure you change it everywhere. Don't have it one pocket have the old one pocket have the new one, because it leads to the same issue I brought up earlier. Now you have a business idea, you have you have a budget, you have your initial elements. How do you market? Well, because you know your budget, you now know how much you have to market with. And after you've paid or done on your logo and website and possibly business cards, you should have a regular monthly budget for marketing. Now, if it's a lower side one and your business can do it, then you may want to look into doing some stuff on your own and or doing networking, which tends to be a low cost. Keep in mind that networking is going to involve a lot of your personal time, and that doing stuff on your own also involves personal time. So it's a give and take. I save money and stay within budget, but then I'm pulled away from bringing in business. So you have to find the balance, and this is something business owners some of them take years to figure out. But the sooner you figure out, the better, is what portion am I going to sit there and focus on my business, and then what portion am I going to focus in my business? I have a client who, for 6 months, he keeps postponing meetings with me, including today. And he's just so busy. But here's the dilemma. He has a lot of questions. He's struggling because he's not able to address some internal issues. And we've had 2-minute call here, a minute call there, but he doesn't have time to work on his business. And as a result, the status quo is staying the same.
So really, when we're talking about budgeting, you have to budget your time just as much as you have to budget your funds, because it's really just as valuable, if not more.
Yeah. I mean, when you're giving quotes, you should be putting in your time. If you're spending an hour, what are you worth? How much value do you bring? If you view yourself as free, then how do you expect to get paid out of your business for your time if you're not budgeting for that? Now, if you have a larger budget, I'm not talking tens of thousands of dollars, but if you have budget on a month in, month out basis, that may be where you actually are doing paid ads. If you really have a good, strong budget, you might be starting SEO. You might be sitting there and doing paid social media. These are opportunities that can be used to gain traction. Yelp ads, another one. But again, without knowing the budget and the business, it's hard to say. And within this plan, I would strongly recommend doing some market research so that way you can properly create things. It sounds silly, but some industries, it's as nuanced as avoiding certain colors
Mm.
because they have a negative connotation behind them. It's not as if it's like there's a warning sign, don't use this color. But there are actual studies for certain things that, hey, consumers view this as bad luck, or consumers view this as, hey, you should sit there and not use this. So understanding that is a key element in the planning process. Let's talk about being nimble. My favorite example of being nimble is I had a client start a business in an area that I even know you could start a business. He has a company that rents airplanes. Great, wonderful, very unique. Started the business, done fairly okay, but over the course of five years, we probably adjusted his website majorly at least 4 times. Not because the original website had a problem with it not being a good website, but it didn't really represent him. So he was nimble enough, able to assess and shift and adjust. As a business owner, you have to be able to be nimble, not just at the beginning, but throughout the time you have the business. My mom used to own a mailbox business for over 20 years. Early in her business was the boom of the e-commerce phase. And at that time, people would bring her boxes and boxes of stuff to pack up and mail out, especially around Christmas. Because back then, the Amazon craze and all these places doing free shipping wasn't as common. Well, as Amazon and all these places started doing free shipping, her shipping revenue dropped. But she was nimble enough to adjust her services and adjust her approach to continue to grow the business. As a new business, you may think, oh, I have the best XYZ widget. But if other consumers don't view that widget as valuable as you do, are you going to succeed? Does it mean you throw, as what's the guy on Shark Tank who says, take it out back and shoot it? Not necessarily. It could be as simple as we need to adjust the messaging. We need to adjust the approach. We need to adjust how we market it. And sometimes that involves rethinking our budget. Maybe our original budget was too low and we need to do that. Sometimes it means reallocating stuff. And sometimes it could be, look, while my original website fit what I needed, I need to redo it. I need
Mm-hmm.
to restate things in a different way so that way it actually resonates with people.
Mm-hmm. And I think part of being nimble is making sure that you stay aware. And you can't be complacent. You can't just let things go on autopilot. You have to keep your eyes open. You have to keep your ears open, see what opportunities are coming, see what's working, see what's not. And the fact that you can never be complacent just feeds right back into the first step, which is you have to be passionate. Because if you're not passionate, then you're going to get complacent and it's not going to work. And if you are passionate, then you're going to be excited to keep going and keep staying nimble and keep making sure that what you're doing works.
I will add something to what you just said. It seems elementary, but when you're in it, you forget. Don't be arrogant. As a business owner, we're always afraid to show our vulnerability and our fears because we feel if we show weakness, quote unquote, we will not be able to bring customers in because they will feel like, well, why should I trust this person? He doesn't even know left from his right. Well, the dilemma you run into is if you are arrogant and don't show vulnerability, especially to those closest to you, you may miss out on people being truthful with you. You may miss out on people sitting there and actually giving you help when you need it, because you're going to hit bumps in the road. Early on, middle of the road, down the road. I mean, at least a couple times a year, I run into a situation where, like, and I've been in this for almost 15 years. I'm not 100% sure what to do. I have a business coach I run it by. I have what I call my close circle of colleagues and friends that I run things by, because I know I don't know everything. And some of these people have experience and know people who experience, or they know people who can help me get answers. Early on, find that circle, feel free to add to it, but don't be afraid to, hey, you have a bad day, bad month, talk it out. If you're going to sit there and recently had a big loss and you don't know what to do, talk it out. Don't wait till it's too late and the whole business crumbles. Talk it out in advance so you can solve it.
And I think in business and in life, it's really a true thing to follow. You have to be real to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else, Jackie, you want to add before we close out?
I think we covered it, but I just wish everyone luck on their journey, no matter where they are in it.
So get a business idea, plan a budget, plan a marketing plan, and be nimble. If you need help along the way, you're welcome to reach out to us, ask any questions. This is Daniel and Jackie with Marketing D-Koded. Thanks.
Thank you for listening. Please be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast player. To sign up for your own free assessment, visit www.decodetech.com/free-fitness-assessment.